What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Crew 2, and in this video I'm going to take a look at the Lamborghini Countach LPI 804. I would say a lot of players are most likely going to get the older version of this car, but I'm not going to lie, I'm really digging the look of the actual new one here because this thing is pretty sweet. I have not seen one in person yet. I'm sure down in Miami there's probably going to be a new Countach down there. Once I can finally make my way down there, I might be able to actually see one at one of the dealerships, but regardless, I would say this car does look pretty sweet, and I do have to give props to Lamborghini because the overall body design on this thing is actually starting to kind of grow on me. But now moving over to some of the customization on the Lamborghini Countach here, luckily this car is going to have some if you guys might have been wondering. So first we'll have the carbon fiber hood. Then moving over to the front bumpers, this vehicle is going to have more than the older Countach, which I would say is probably going to make sense considering this vehicle is newer. I'm not going to lie though, I'm not really digging many of the bumpers on the car so far. They really don't look all that bad, but I don't know, I would prefer to keep the Lamborghini pretty much stock. I really do love the look of this thing how it is, but moving over to the front fenders now, you can definitely wide body this thing, which actually doesn't look all that bad. It also kind of looks like the fitment on this vehicle does look pretty nice as well, so I give props to Ubisoft on that. At least the fender doesn't stick out super far. That would probably look hilarious. Moving over to the rims now though, there is going to be a few different ones. So the ones I got with it because I did buy the bundle, which I believe was like $1.5 million because I do have the season pass discount, is honestly not too bad for a supercar and or a hypercar depending on how you look at it, and also a street car as well. But here's the rims I did get with the car. And then the next rims are basically going to be the exact same thing, but they're going to be alloy colored. And then after that, we're going to have the gold ones as well, which these definitely look pretty sweet. And then finally, we're going to have the ugliest rims imaginable, which are basically the ones in the Crew 2. But now moving over, we'll also be able to color those calipers on the vehicle. So for me, I'm probably going to actually make these black here. And then moving over is the mirrors you can also change as well. So for this, you have the carbon fiber ones stock on there, and you can also paint the ones to match the car. So I would probably just leave these carbon fiber because I really do like how that looks. Plus the name Lamborghini on the side of that mirror is looking pretty sweet. And then moving over to the skirts on the Lamborghini Countach here is going to be a painted one, and then also a bigger carbon fiber piece on the side. But personally, guys, I would say the stock one is most likely going to look the best there. But moving over to the rear fenders is going to be the wide body kit, which you can actually see the bolts of that wide body kit going all the way down to the side of the car. And again, I'd have to admit, this really doesn't look all that bad on the vehicle, but I would say the fitment is slightly off on that. I really do want to know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Does that only bug me, or do you guys wish you can also bring out the wheels just a little bit? I feel like that would look so much better, my goodness. But moving over to the rear bumpers now. So for this, there is going to be a good amount of bumpers you can add to the Lamborghini. If I had to guess though, I would say many players are probably not going to like a lot of these. I mean, some of these definitely look kind of odd on the back of this car. And not only that, I would say the biggest highlight is probably going to be the taillights changing, which I feel like a lot of people are not going to care all that much for. And then after that, guys, you move right over to the interior color of the car. So it looks like you're not going to be able to change like the spoiler or anything on this, which I would say that's probably going to make a lot of sense because who would actually want to put a spoiler on that? Also, that yellow stitching in this thing is going to look pretty sweet, but do keep in mind everything else is not changeable. But that is basically going to do it for the customization of the new Countach. I would say this car is probably going to be slightly limited on the overall customization, but at least it does give players some type of option with it to actually change a few things around. But nonetheless though, let's go take an outside look of the Countach right now, and also do a quick top speed test as well because I do want to see how this car is going to compare to some of the other hypercars. So now taking an outside look of the Lamborghini Countach, I would definitely say Lamborghini did an incredible job on the design of this car. I really do like the look of this thing and I think it looks really good in orange as well. But let's take a listen to that engine. You can never get tired of the sound of a Lamborghini, but by the way guys, let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite Lamborghini of all time? I do want to know because there's definitely a lot of them. For me, I'd probably end up picking the Countach, but let's jump into that interior right now and see how this thing is going to look. So we have that crazy looking dash there, which it looks like it does move. That's kind of weird. It has the first gear and then basically like the speed thing on the bottom right, which is kind of hard to see, but I would say the detail of this car does look pretty sweet. We have the middle piece of the vehicle there showing like the car, the audio and all that stuff. So at least it does have some detail to it. I would say compared to many of the other cars in the Crew 2 that the overall interior detail of the Lamborghini Countach is actually going to be really good. Now let's go see what the top speed of the Lamborghini Countach actually is. So I'm sure a lot of players do know that most of the hypercars in the Crew 2 are going to do around like 280 miles an hour. Now some of them will definitely struggle to get there, and others like the Bugatti Supersport 300 Plus are most likely going to fly right past that speed pretty easily. But one thing I do want to mention guys, I'm sure a lot of players are going to pick the Supersport over basically everything else because of that high top speed. One thing I have been noticing though is even with the lower top speed of basically every other hypercar, most of these cars can easily compete on most of the races in the game. I would say the Bugatti is obviously going to completely own it with the longer hyper races, but for these shorter ones though, I would say most of the other cars will do just fine, especially with cars doing over 300 miles an hour. But besides all that, let's see what the Countach can actually get to at Nitro Chemist right now. So hitting the nitrous here. So 318 to 319 miles an hour is going to make the Countach tied with the Bugatti Divo. So this car is basically going to be in like the top 5 for the fastest cars in the game, which I would say is going to be pretty awesome because now we have another vehicle we can run on races. Not only that though, I feel like many players probably want to use something besides a Bugatti, and now that we have something like the Lamborghini Countach, that can easily compete with those with the exact same top speed. And now jumping right into the Hollywood hypercar race with the Lamborghini Countach here. So for this vehicle, I did want to test this thing out in this race because I have been noticing even testing out the Lamborghini P1 Gold Line Edition from the Motor Pass. That car was pretty impressive, but to be honest, I feel like many players are just not going to pick that car for any race. And having something like the Lamborghini Countach here, I feel like most people, including myself, are most likely going to pick this car over that one for pretty much many of the events. Now, one thing I do want to mention though is I really do feel like many people love the Bugattis on the Crew 2, which don't get me wrong guys, I really do like them a lot as well. I really like how many Bugattis there actually are, and all the variants I would say is probably going to trigger many people because my goodness if we get one more of those, but I would say many people really do love the way the Bugattis are, and that's probably for good reasoning. For one, they have really good top end power and obviously can hold a top speed very easily. Many of the cars in the Crew 2 I have been noticing tend to really struggle with getting up to speed a little bit easier, which is kind of odd, but also having something like the Countach here is going to be a direct competitor compared to many of the Bugattis in the game because this thing has pretty much the same top speed as basically every single one of them besides the Supersport 300 Plus, so I would say this Lamborghini is going to definitely be something to take a look at. Not only that, but it's also going to be a brand new Countach, so this car definitely looks pretty awesome. I really do love the look of this thing, and I feel like Lamborghini definitely hit it out of the park. Now, one thing I need to learn how to do is obviously drive this thing because, my goodness, I am not used to how this thing is steering at the moment, but for the most part, I would say the handling on the Lamborghini is probably going to be top tier because I'm not finding this car to be very unstable at higher speeds. I have been noticing that with driving the Bugatti and or the McLaren P1 for example. I noticed some of the cars do tend to struggle at higher speeds with their stability, which is definitely going to be an issue. For example, if you guys hit a little tiny bump with the Bugatti, the car is probably going to spin out. No matter what I actually do to the handling of it and or mess with it, the car is going to continue to do that, which I think might frustrate many people. I have been noticing the Lamborghini Countach though doesn't seem to lose itself as easy, and I would say the overall stability of this car is going to be way better, which will most likely make a lot of people pick this vehicle over many of the other Bugattis in the game.